Wade Davis is an anthropologist and an ethnobotanist crossed with Indiana Jones. Better than food, man. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Better Than Food Book Reviews. I'm your host, Clifford Lee Sargent. How y'all doing? First off, thanks to the author A.S. Arthur for his support of the show. You can check out his site, which publishes experimental writing and poetry at TAKTAK.nu, which I'll link to in the description box below. If you'd like to support the show and help me spread the word about great books, please visit patreon.com/books-are-better-than-food. You can get access to my private vlog where I give recommendations on books that I may have liked but didn't love enough to do like a full comprehensive review. And also, music recommendations, film recommendations, podcast recommendations, all sorts of stuff. And I often mention the next books I'm going to review so you can get a head start. So if you think we have similar taste, you might get a lot of value out of it. And your support helps me spread the word about great books, which is awesome, because it changes people's lives. Sometimes it saves them, which is fucking cool, man. Thank you very much to everyone who has supported the show already. Really appreciate it. And speaking of supporters, thank you very much to fan and supporter Andrew McCann, who passionately informed me the other day about this book and Wade Davis, a Harvard anthropologist who in the early 80s sought out the poison that creates the infamous voodoo zombie and raises the dead. Turns out he wrote a book I'd heard of, but had no idea it was such an in-depth account of a time, place, history, religion, and culture. This is the book based on that experience, The Serpent and the Rainbow. In this book, Wade Davis recounts his travel and experience with Haitian voodoo that will make any victim of wanderlust salivate furiously. You forget there was an era before the internet, right? There was an era where you could hide, when people and things and ideas were mysterious and not immediately accessible, when information had to be obtained through texts and research, and the physical going to places and talking to people and getting secrets from them, right? Getting clues, interpreting things, analyzing information to the best of your abilities and tracking things down, not through simply rubbing your phone like a shitty genie's lamp. Wade Davis is an anthropologist and an ethnobotanist crossed with Indiana Jones. He hears about this incident involving a Haitian man named Clairvius Narcissa, whom, years after his death, clinically documented, returns to his town with a story about being transformed into a zombie and basically being made a slave. Wade finds men, wealthy men, who are very interested in the components of a poison that is able to achieve this zombie state. So his expedition is funded to see if there's any truth to this, and if so, of course, what are the ingredients? Is there such thing as an actual zombie? Somebody who dies and is somehow resurrected, clinically dead, and brought back to life? Are these voodoo cults cannibals? Do they sacrifice infants and turn men into pigs? What is the deal with all the skulls and the dolls and the potions? That's where this book starts, of course. And he starts off with a very skeptical view of the voodoo religion. The VODOU religion. That old-time voodoo religion. Wade's descriptions of entering Haiti remind me of my first experiences walking into Marrakesh in Morocco. You look around and you just have no clue what the hell is going on. It's chaos in the markets and on the streets, and it's this frenetic dance that you have to learn the steps to, right, in order to survive. The cultural fabric of Haiti blends religion and politics into a single organism, operating on many different levels with a complex, seemingly invisible overlap of church and state. Haiti in the 80s was dramatic territory, as if that ever changed. Government and religion are deeply, deeply mixed. And when you get into rural territories, which is where the majority of Haitians live, you see things controlled on a very localized level. But first off, the title of the book, The Serpent and the Rainbow, comes from the VODOU myth, which I'm going to share with you. In the beginning, it is said, there was only the great serpent, whose 7,000 coils lay beneath the earth, holding it in place, that it might not fall into the abysmal sea. In time, the serpent began to move, unleashing its undulating flesh, which rose slowly into a great spiral that enveloped the universe. In the heavens, it released stars and all the celestial bodies. On earth, it brought forth creation, winding its way through the molten slopes to carve rivers, which, like veins, became the channels through which flowed the essence of all life. In the searing heat, it forged metals, and rising again into the sky, it cast lightning bolts to the earth that gave birth to the sacred stones. Then it lay along the path of the sun and partook of its nature. Within its layered skin, the serpent retained the spring of eternal life, and from the zenith it let go the waters that filled the rivers upon which people would nurse. As the water struck the earth, the rainbow arose, and the serpent took her as his wife. Their love entwined them in a cosmic helix that arched across the heavens. In time, their fusion gave birth to the spirit that animates blood. Women learned to filter this divine substance through their breasts to produce milk, just as men passed it through their testes to create semen. The serpent and the rainbow instructed women to remember these blessings once each month, and they taught men to dam the flow so that the belly might swell and bring forth new life. Then, as a final gift, they taught the people to partake of the blood as a sacrament, that they might become the spirit and embrace the wisdom of the serpent. Interesting. Rather than the snake being Satan, or the snake being evil, the snake is actually the deity, right? The snake is God, responsible for everything. God is a snake in VODOU. So throughout Wade's search for the poison, each person he meets, of course, is more interesting than the last. Bokors or medicine men, voodoo priests, the members and judges of secret societies. Each experience drives him deeper into the culture, which is heavily layered, and you witness his transformation over this period of a few years, as he goes back and forth, collecting ingredients and then taking them back to be tested in America. There's a Vice documentary where Hamilton Morris, who's the son of Errol Morris, the documentary filmmaker, interviews Wade Davis and then goes to Haiti to try and discover all of this stuff for himself. One of the people he meets in the documentary, Max Beauvoir, is actually in this book, which was written some time ago in the mid-'80s. Max Beauvoir is the head of this secret society called the Bizango Champuel. Historically, the Bizango Society was founded by slaves called Maroons who rebelled against the French. Basically, they act as a judicial system in rural Haiti, though many rumors historically depict them as this cannibal cult that wanders through villages at night, abducting children and eating them, right? Or using them for hideous sacrificial rites. What becomes clear to Wade is that the Bizango are the ones who have the power and knowledge to turn someone into a zombie, stemming from this ancestral knowledge of poison that is traced all the way back to Africa. It's impossible to get a full view of the society without knowing the history, which is fascinating and documented in this book. One of my favorite chapters in the book is the one dedicated to the history of Haiti, but there's a lot of it, so this is the extremely condensed version, okay? To say the history of Haiti is violent and dramatic is a massive understatement. Haiti was colonized by the French and the slaves were imported. Eventually, rebel slaves defeated the French army. Very impressive. They ran away and they formed these societies in the mountains and the wilderness, and if anybody threatened them, betrayed them, it was bad news. Davis also believes that it's a mistake to hold certain figures, kind of painted as revolutionary, in a positive light. For example, and this is the one that surprised me, Toussaint Louverture was actually fighting for the French, like he was fighting for the original French hierarchical system, which didn't really work out so well. And I think he was actually betrayed in the end by the French, by Napoleon. If the historians have clouded the character of the struggle, they have also inaccurately idealized the revolutionary leaders, Toussaint Louverture, Christophe, and Dessalines in particular, disguising their ambitions in lofty libertarian visions that they most certainly did not have. The primary interest of the French in the immediate wake of the uprising was the maintenance of an agrarian economy devoted to the production of export crops, right? How this was accomplished was of little concern. It was accomplished through some seriously brutal shit. Once they realized that the restoration of slavery was not possible, and before Napoleon arose to attempt to storm the island by force, the French ministers devised an alternative system whereby freed slaves as sharecroppers would be forged into a new form of indentured labor. The plantations would essentially remain intact. Lacking the military presence to enforce this scheme, the French turned to the leaders of the revolutionary armies and found willing collaborators, including Toussaint Louverture, who became a major figure in the restoration of French authority on the island. So, the French, however, made a critical error in assuming that this co-opted leadership would submit to the whims of Paris. On the contrary, the black leadership did what they had always planned to do. They secured for themselves positions at the top of a new social order. Toussaint Louverture had no intentions of overseeing the dismantling of the colonial plantations. In the abstract, he was committed to the freedom of the people, but in practice, he believed that the only way to maintain the country's prosperity and the free status of the citizens was through agricultural production. Zora Neale Hurston was an author from Florida. notorious for taking serious steps to getting into secret places and gathering information. Upon learning about the society known as Les Cochons Gris, the Grey Pigs, it sounded so dangerous that she thought that nobody was ever going to be able to get the recipe for the poison and the antidote. It's a two-part system, this whole zombie thing. You have that which puts you under and that which brings you back. So the Bizango is responsible for guarding this secret and practicing the zombie process, right? It's this secret society with hierarchies and courts, and also religious festivals and sacrifices and ceremonies and dances. Dancing is really big in voodoo culture, which is awesome, I think. What Wade discovers is that Clervius, the zombie, was not treating his family or community very well at all. In fact, he was a total dick, right? When he returned from the dead, they didn't greet him with open arms. He was shunned. Since he was screwing people over during his real life, basically had a bunch of kids, was taking care of none of them, and was kind of exploiting his community for his own gain, his fate was no mistake. He was judged by the Bizango society. So basically this is what Wade learns. Zombification is a punishment for doing some really bad shit, like screwing your family over or having a bunch of kids and not taking care of any of them. So it's no wonder that every time Wade comes close to the poison, he comes across the Bizango, and eventually he meets the head of it and becomes initiated. If the formula of the poison and the sorcerer's spell explained how a zombie succumbed, it said nothing about why he was chosen. Many, including those who had formulated Haiti's national laws, had concluded that zombification was a random criminal activity. Yet another symptom of a conspiracy of fear that was presumed to be the common plight of the peasant. But the longer I remained in Haiti, and the more I learned of the Vaudou society, the more impressed I was by its internal cohesion. Sorcery was certainly a potent force to be dealt with, but to a great extent it had been institutionalized as a critical component of the worldview. To ask why there is sorcery in Haiti is to ask why there is evil in the world. And the answer, if there is one, is the same as that provided by all the great religions. Evil is the mirror of good, the necessary complement that completes the whole of creation. The Haitians, as much as any people, are conscious of this sacred balance. Very, very interesting. Great book. Belief plays a huge role in the process of zombification, in the effectiveness of these activities, or this sorcery, or this magic, whatever you want to call it. All of these elements, physical and spiritual, need to work together in order to achieve these things, but they are achieved amazingly. Nowhere that I've seen is the power of belief demonstrated greater than in voodoo. So he arrives in Haiti with these theories about what the poison contains. And throughout the book, he learns about the major ingredients. And he eventually lists them out and why they're so potent. One of the active ingredients for the poison that puts you under the ground, so to speak, is the Tetrodotoxin, which comes from the pufferfish. You've probably all heard of the fugu fish that comes from Japan. Same family. The fugu sashimi is responsible for the extremely agonizing and painful death that results from eating too much of it or the wrong part of it. Though by comparison, I learned apparently more people die from eating raw oysters. So, go figure. The ingredient fed to the zombie during its resurrection is datura, or as they call it, the zombie's cucumber, a highly poisonous flower that can cause severely bad trips and kill you. It's also used as a date rape drug. They call it the borrachera tree in Colombia. Borrachera is like slang for like being supremely drunk or fucked up. The rest of the zombie powder is composed of morbid and grisly ingredients that have more spiritual relevance than chemical relevance. And you can probably guess what they are, but I'll let you find out for yourself. Gross stuff combined with crazy powerful drugs equals zombie powder. Obviously, there's a romantic appeal to the Vodou religion. Drums, dancing, acts of strange power due to possession, where men are shoving these hot coals in their mouths and then spitting them back out again and having no injuries. It centers around mystery and secrets and intense forms of worship, possession by the gods, becoming the gods, and sacrifice. You can see for yourself the schlocky voodoo thing we have over here is so watered down in comparison. It's nowhere close to what actually took and probably is still taking place. The whole voodoo doll thing, I have no idea where that comes from. I have no clue. The drums in Vodou ceremonies are not only important, they're essential. It's like the backbone for all of these things. It's like the foundation of the religion is this drum rhythm. Nothing commands a physical reaction quite like drumming. And nothing hurls your body into a different state like intense physical activity. right? And so in this case, dancing to very loud drums is the most beautiful, basic, and effective method of communication with the divine, with divine being, right? It's something I really think Western religion has missed out on. This was one of the best passages in the book. As the Haitians say, the Catholic goes to church to speak about God. The Vodouist dances in the hoon for to become God. I'm very interested in the significance, the historical relevance, and the power of religious experience. And in the history of Haiti, Vodou is extremely significant. The Vodouan society, for example, spins a web of belief that is all-inclusive, that generates an illusion of total comprehension, no matter how an outsider might view it. For the individual member of that society, the illusion holds. Not because of coercive force, but simply because for him, there is no other way. And what's more, the belief system works. It gives meaning to the universe. Scientific thinking is quite the opposite. We explicitly deny such comprehensive visions and instead deliberately divide our world, our perceptions, and our confusion into however many particles are necessary to achieve understanding according to the rules of our logic. We set things apart from each other, and then when we cannot explain, we dismiss with euphemisms. For example, we could ask why a tree fell over in a storm and killed a pedestrian. The scientist might suggest that the trunk was rotten and the velocity of the wind was higher than usual, but when pressed to explain why it happened at the instant when that individual passed, we would undoubtedly hear words such as chance, coincidence, and fate. Terms which, in and of themselves, are quite meaningless, but which conveniently leave the issue open. For the Vodouist, each detail in that progression of events would have a total, immediate, and satisfactory explanation within the parameters of his belief system. So it's very interesting. For us to doubt the conclusions of the Vodouist is expected, but it is nevertheless presumptuous. Some have even said that Francois Duvalier, who was the president of Haiti up until 1971, was secretly a voodoo priest himself, because of all of his ties to the religion and because of his revolutionary stance of recognizing its importance. Up until that point, it had been under siege by Western religion and Catholicism. Duvalier also dressed in a way that suggested he was the incarnation of Baron Samedi, and I've read that he kept the severed head of an enemy who tried to stage a coup in his closet. This is not to say Duvalier and his son, Papa Doc and Baby Doc, as they were known, were necessarily good for the country. There were loads of executions by Papa Doc's rural militia, the Tonton Macoute. Upon first glance, it seems like the whole political system was severely corrupted. Whatever is revealed in the book just seems to be the tip of the iceberg. So if you're interested in adventure and history and religion combined with drugs and shamanism, this is it. It's fantastic. It's awesome. It's going to be one of the best you've read this year. If you guys are interested in some supplementary material, there's an awesome documentary by Maya Deren, the experimental filmmaker, on YouTube. She made a film called The Divine Horsemen, which documents voodoo culture in, I think, the 50s or the 60s. And there's all of these ceremonies and dances. It's fantastic. It's all in black and white. It's awesome. I'll link to that in the description box below, and I'll also link to a Spotify playlist with some Haitian voodoo drumming, which I've been listening to just driving around here lately. It's so rad. If you have any suggestions or thoughts on what would make this channel and show better, please let me know. I would sincerely appreciate it. Any kind of constructive criticism is greatly appreciated. Always remember, life is far too short to read bullshit. Subscribe, Twitter, patreon.com/booksarebetterthanfood if you're really generous and kind. That's how I found out about this book, from a supporter of the show. I love hearing from and meeting all of you. You have fantastic taste, and this is how this whole process works. I hear about the books from you, and suddenly everybody else hears about it, and suddenly we have this whole machine going, this whole complex web of thoughts and ideas and communication. And that's just growing and growing and growing. It's awesome. Like, that's what this is about. That's what I want to facilitate. I want to facilitate that international communication of thoughts and ideas, this network, this web of thoughts and ideas. So, it's better than food. The Serpent and the Rainbow by Wade Davis. Check it out. Always remember, life is far too short to read bullshit. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you're well. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great night. Ciao.